South Carolina Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace went on The View today and got grilled on the topic of abortion. Now, what she said might not have all been right, but Whoopi Goldberg just showed how stupid people can be. Everybody, we're going to react to that today on Speechless Cut for Time. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Speechless Cut for Time. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student out of Central Illinois, host of Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. But I also, obviously, like you're watching right now, do some off-air content, some things that might not be able to make it onto my radio show for one reason or another. But if you don't want to miss a minute of it and you like what you're hearing, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit those notification bells, and ring it to all. Because you never know, ScrewTube tries to make it so I don't get as many people hearing these messages because I don't fit the lamestream media narrative. I'm a young conservative college student. How many people do that? Also, share this with your friends and comment what you think about what we're talking about. But as I stated in the intro, Republican representative from South Carolina, Nancy Mace, went on The View today, and she got grilled on the issue of abortion. Obviously, it's a panel of all women, so the topic of abortion was likely to come up, especially as it comes to The View and their politics. And Nancy Mace has been a little wishy-washy on this issue, and you'll hear her talk about it. But Whoopi Goldberg just says some really dumb stuff. And I thought most of my viewers probably don't watch The View, but they probably say, well, who would watch that? It's stupid. Well, The View is still on air. Whether or not that's a good thing, we could argue. But that means that some people watch it, and that means you want to know the one group of people that Trump lost in 2020 was primarily middle-aged white women. And so probably the target demographic for The View. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, but probably the target demographic for The View. And so these are the people that are watching it. So it's important that we understand what is being talked about and the messages that they are sending. And if you have anybody in your family that watches The View, you can kind of get a better understanding of the stupidity that really is spread on this show. And so let's take a look, take a listen, and we're going to react a bit to what they talked about with Nancy Mace in terms of abortion on The View today and debunk some of the crap that's said.
We're back with Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Alyssa has the next question.
Congresswoman, it's so good to have you. And I've been very grateful for your voice of moderation in the House Republican Conference. And something you alluded to that's become a hot button issue is most of our party has taken some extreme positions on the issue of abortion since Roe fell. You've talked about the fact that we have to be a pro-women party, we have to be a pro-family party.
And so just notice how they say extreme. They slide that in there. Extreme positions on The View, extreme positions on abortion. That's social conditioning in terms of the actual opinions, but let's keep hearing just where this goes.
What is the GOP getting wrong right now, and what do you think the answer is to addressing this?
Well, certainly on women's issues, and when I agree with my party, I'm going to support them, and when I don't agree, I'm going to call them out. I've been calling them out on this issue since before Roe v. Wade was overturned. We cannot demonize women, and I myself, I am a survivor of rape. I was raped at the age of 16. I dropped out of high school, became a Waffle House waitress. By the grace of God, I eventually made it to college and became the first woman to graduate from the Citadel. But I know firsthand the kind of lifetime of trauma that women and girls face when they go through that, and the shame that they feel, and the fact that we demonize women who don't want to be in that position to make a choice. They don't want to be in a position where they have to decide to have an abortion or not. We have to find a balance to show we're pro-life, but we care about women, and find that balancing act. But what I have found is that neither side wants to find the middle ground. The left doesn't want to tell you what their limits are. The right has it's zero and no exceptions. That is not where the vast majority of Americans are.
Okay, so here's a few things to point out before we keep letting them talk and get through it. Okay, so the first problem that I see with this is that and I have the utmost empathy for anybody who has gone through any type of sexual assault, harassment, rape, anything like that. It's awful. I believe rapists should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. I need not go into that further. But the problem with this is that, so she's asked a question on abortion and she quickly brought it into the topic of rape. Okay, so the problem with this is that the Guttmacher Institute, who compiles a lot of data and statistics, they, according to them, 1%, if not less, of abortions are due to that of rape. And so what she's already done, Nancy Mace, in her counter or answer to this question is that she's already diluted the topic of abortion to that most extreme example of rape. And when it comes to Republican stance on that, it's a little wishy-washy, but I from what I understand, a significant amount of them would allow for an exception to rape. And that's the thing, is that instance is an exception, right? You make rules based on the vast majority, and then you make exceptions based on the minority, the small. And so you don't, when you're talking about abortion as a whole, let's talk about the majority of abortions. The majority of abortions happen late second term or into the third term, with less happening early second term into the first term. But again, even first term abortions happen at a higher frequency than abortions due to rape. So when we're talking about this, do not dilute it to the exception to the rule, the smallest percentage. And that's what, by bringing up her story, which again, I have the utmost empathy for, that's what she has already diluted this conversation into, and thus misrepresents the entirety of almost anybody's argument when it comes to why to be pro-life. But let's keep going.
They want to be compassionate to women and girls. They want exceptions. At some point, we have to decide, at one point, does the baby have rights and the right to life? Somewhere in the second trimester,
So what
we're
do you think is
95
a specific balance?
second trimester.
Okay, so to allow to get her into that, another problem that she goes to, and I'm going to go back to it a little bit over here, is that she then brings up that that's not what most Americans want, and that's where you get into kind of a conversation as to is what most Americans want, and it's kind of a fallacy on her part. Is what most Americans want what is best for the country, or what is morally correct, or even scientifically correct? And that's where you kind of get into an issue there. Okay, so if most Americans want to do heroin, but it's not legal, and so that's what keeps them from doing, and this is a hypothetical. We're going to take this as a hypothetical. If most Americans want to do heroin, even though they know that it will likely kill them, but what's stopping them is the illegality of it. So then you start having a lot of Americans that come out and say, well, we need to legalize heroin so that we can do it. Well, if the result of that would be more deaths because of heroin, is that what is correct? Is that what is the right thing to do? And that's where we get into the slippery slope of, is what most Americans want the right legislation? If most Americans want the government to send them checks of just money out of nowhere that they pull from their butt and they print it out, well, economically, that would show that we are likely going to head into a high level of inflation, and the dollar that you send them won't be worth the same because you sent out so much money. That's part of the argument against the stimulus checks that went with COVID. Just because most Americans want something doesn't mean it's the right decision to make. And so to legislate based on, well, most Americans want this or believe this, is not necessarily the best way to legislate. Now, I can understand the perspective of, well, I'm elected to represent the people in my district, and so then I have to do what they want. But think about that. Is what most Americans want what's best for the country? Sometimes those do coincide. But consider it, especially in the topic of abortion, as we see right here. Let's keep going.
Of Americans are. They want to be compassionate to women and girls. They want exceptions. At some point, we have to decide, at one point, does the baby have rights and the right to life? Somewhere in the second trimester,
So what
we're
do you think is a
95
specific balance?
second trimester for a gestational limit is where I believe most people are. They don't want to go all the way to 9 months. They don't want to be at zero. They
Exactly. She's taking the position of, well, this is where most people are on this issue. And so this is what's going to get me reelected, is if I do the position that most people agree with. Just saying.
want exceptions. But also, I look at what we've done this year, this Congress. What have we done to ensure women have greater access to birth control? We've done nothing. What have we done to protect women who've been raped or girls who are victims of incest? We've done nothing. By the way, I have bills on all of these things. Foster care, child care, you name it. Some of my deals with the speaker have been on women's issues and gun violence, and we haven't done a damn thing.
And I agree with her on that. Those are things, I don't know where the gun violence stuff comes in. That's not what the conversation is about. And I don't know what her position is on those. But I agree, we do need to, especially if we're going to advocate for pro-life policies, we need to help fund, not just fund, but also ensure efficacy of our foster care systems. And yeah, we probably should do some work with birth control and other means of contraception as well. But again, that is an entirely different topic than abortion in and of itself, as it becomes a moral and a legal qualm.
And it makes me very angry as a woman.
I'm curious. Do you want the government telling you how to raise your family?
I don't want the government, but
So shouldn't we all be able to say, listen, because the law says no law says you have to have an abortion. There's no law on the books that says you have to have an abortion. isn't that my choice if my doctor and I feel that that's the best way for me? Because if I'm a nice Jewish girl, or if I'm a girl who has a different religious belief, why am I being held to someone else's religious belief?
Well, at some point.
Okay, I'm going to let Nancy Mace respond to that. But I think I am probably dumber for hearing that. That's probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Because she starts off with, do you want the government to tell you how to raise your family? Well, no, but that's not what the question of abortion is. Look, no, she comes up with this next one. There's no law in the book saying that you have to have an abortion. Well, there's also no law in the books that says you had to have unprotected sex. There's also no law that says you had to have unprotected sex, Whoopi. Look, this is the problem, is that so many pro-choice people and the people that advocate for this, they act like you just wake up one day and you're pregnant all of a sudden. That's not how it works. There are a lot of decisions that go before becoming pregnant. There are so many decisions that happen before that. And then 96%, this is a study from UChicago, you can go look it up, 96% of biologists agree that life begins at conception. A rational person would agree that the taking of a human life is murder. Therefore, if human life begins at conception, which 96% of biologists agree, the majority of them, of those 96, identifying as Democrats, people that are traditionally more pro-choice, 96% of them agree that life begins at conception, and taking of human life is murder, then wouldn't the logical train of thought be that abortion is then murder? Would you, here's again, Whoopi, she asked the question, she begs the question of, would you want the government telling you how you should raise your family? No, I would not want the government telling me how I should raise my family. But would you, Whoopi, want the government allowing people to just kill somebody because they didn't want it? It makes no sense to me. We'll let Nancy Mace respond, though. Hopefully that she has some level of intelligence to respond to Whoopi's idiocy.
Point, that baby, people will agree with me that the baby deserves the right to life. And you can't say on one hand, at some point, but you don't want the government in the room between the doctor and the woman, but those who want the government to pay for it has the government in the room with the doctor and the woman. So you can't have it both ways.
No,
there is a medical ethics question there, too, that goes beyond the religious belief. I mean, we're going to get to a place where a baby could survive the third trimester.
Yes, but I'm saying to you, isn't that your choice to make that decision? Why do you want me to go with your belief when that is not my belief?
Because because your belief is wrong, Whoopi. Because your belief is wrong. That's why. Because your belief is not based in any level of logic, science, legality. No, your entire belief is based on, this is what makes me feel good. This is what makes me feel good. And look, okay, maybe it is based in logic. Okay, maybe it's based in logic, but a logic that stems from feelings. I feel as though people should have this choice. Okay, I can understand that feelings-based logic, but that's not fact-based logic. That's not fact-based logic. We currently have a law in the books that says if a pregnant woman is killed, this is the Child Protection Act of the early 2000s, I believe that's what it's called. But it's if a pregnant woman is murdered, the murderer can be charged for a double homicide. So our legal system already recognizes that an unborn child is a life, and is a life independent on its own, and thus also deserves some level of legal rights. But no, Whoopi's, why do I have to go with your belief? Okay, well, if my belief is that I should be allowed to own a tank, I should be allowed to own a tank, or I should be allowed to own a nuke. I should be allowed to own a nuke because the government owns nukes, and I think, and it would make me feel better to be able to fight back against the government in case they wanted to try to nuke my house. If that's my belief, Whoopi, I guarantee you'd probably disagree with that. Why should I be forced to go with your belief, Whoopi? Why should I be forced to go with your belief? Because it's crazy to think that I, as a recreational civilian, should be allowed to own a nuke. That's why. That's why, Whoopi. You're an idiot. You're just dumbest things I've ever heard. And it's sad because there's so many people that go along with this kind of logic that backwards, ass backwards, backwoods logic that makes no sense whatsoever.
Because I'm not sure it's a belief.
Because people then cheer for that. Once again, listen to what Whoopi says, then listen to what people cheer for.
My belief.
Again.
Why do you want me to go with your belief when that is not my belief?
Because I'm not sure it's a belief.
What an idiotic thing to say, and all these people are cheering for it. These are voters.
Right now,
These are people that are voters, and they're cheering for that. Idiocy.
all the states have the right to do whatever they want. In California and New York, it's all the way up until 9 months. Other states,
No, but let's stop that. No, but
100%.
no one, no doctor, no hospital, no one will take a baby at 9 months for an abortion.
You want to push me on my limits?
Literally, it's happened, and this is a propaganda that is pushed. So then, if no doctor will take it for 9 months, here's the thing. If no doctor were to take it for 9 months, if that's not happening, then why don't we introduce a law that says, fine, once you hit 9 months of pregnancy, abortion is illegal. Let's introduce that law. Start there. Look, I'm pro-life, and I think that you should be pro-life from womb to tomb. That's where I'm at. Pro-life, womb to tomb. But if they're saying it's not happening, then what would be the problem with introducing a law that says it? You want to know what would happen? Immediately then, all these people would say, well, what if there's this one little exception? What if there's one little thing? What if, because it is happening. Look, probably not all that often, but it is in some cases. But they would object to it, and you know they would. So let's finish out this clip.
But Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden will not give you their limits. And we're having this conversation. Why
I don't
are we talking
understand
about
what
the men?
I missed what you just
What
said,
about
but
the
I'm just
men
saying.
who are rapists? There are some states like Illinois, blue
yes,
states,
absolutely. There are rapists out there. Then why isn't it my choice if this happened? If what happened to you happened to my daughter?
That's what's happening.
What happened to you happened to my daughter. Why isn't it my choice if she's 12? And pregnant.
I agree with
and gets
you.
She's
so,
acknowledging some acts.
I agree with you on that.
then
Rape and incest.
Rape and incest is always
100%.
Okay, here's another thing, actually, by the way, too. She just goes, why isn't it my choice? Actually, in Illinois, there is a law that was recently passed, I believe, and it went into effect in 2022, that says that if a 12-year-old wants to get an abortion, there's no legal right for the parent to have to receive a call. It's a Parental Notification Act. You do not have to, as a parent, you do not have to be notified legally if your 12-year-old wants to have an abortion. So, Whoopi, do your research, dummy. Do your research, because already you have no right in the state of Illinois for what you just said.
But why is it not my choice? This is the part I'm missing, because I understand your choice. I understand your choice. I also am pro-life. I want everybody to have a safe life. I want them to be safe and do all the things that they should be able to do. But when it comes to what is best for my family and I, why isn't that my choice and my doctor's choice without bringing anyone else in? And by the way, just because I'm poor doesn't mean the government doesn't have a responsibility to me as well.
But we got to talk about men in this conversation too, though. Can't have talk about rape, not talk about rapists.
Well, yes.
Can't have a conversation about rape and not have it. They basically cut it off because they were like, oh, Whoopi got her moment. No, Whoopi continued to just spew uneducated, unresearched BS that entire time. And so I know this riles me up. It probably riles you up too. Because I basically debunked almost everything that she said in there, everything that I could actually understand. Because she's again, a lot of it's just pure nonsense. But why do I do this? Why do I push this out here? Because there's an audience there that just clapped for that. There is an audience there of people that believe that allegedly, Joe Biden got 81 million votes in the last election. We need to understand the way these people think, even if it makes no sense, even if it makes zero sense. We need to understand the way these people think. And so it's important to take the clip, take the video, take what they're saying, and then spread the truth to the lies. speak truth to power, speak truth to liars, and call it out when you see it. Because I don't even think Whoopi was necessarily lying. Because to lie, it would mean that she would have to know that what she was saying was not true. And I don't think she's smart enough to say that. Or smart enough to know that. So, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is what people genuinely think, though. I know it surprises me as much as I think it probably surprises you. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Again, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring those notification bells, put it to all so that ScrewTube actually has to notify you, hopefully, that I posted videos that I'm saying these kinds of things. Again, let me know in the comments. Share this with your friends and family, especially if they're going to hate it. Oh, I'd love to see what they have to say. God bless you. God bless America. And until next time, it's been Speechless. Cut for time.